Hey everybody, this is Christina Williams with Just Criminal Law. It's all we do. Today let's talk about the different levels of crimes. Specifically, what's the difference between a felony charge and a misdemeanor charge? And along for the discussion, I have David Mann. Hi, David.
Hi there, Christina. Yeah, so this is another one where, we've all heard the term misdemeanor and felony, and we all know that felony is worse than misdemeanor. But when you get into it, you go, well, but there's a line that you cross where the same sort of crime goes from being a smaller offense to a larger offense. So I thought we'd just look at a few examples from your experience. Is there a general distinction between misdemeanor and felony first?
Yes. A misdemeanor offense is an offense that's punishable by less than a year in jail, and a felony is an offense that's punishable by greater than a year in jail, and there's other consequences that go along with a felony, such as you lose your right to own or possess a firearm, you lose your right to vote, to hold public office, and then obviously you have that scar or that stain on your record that you're required to disclose a lot of times, saying you're a convicted felon.
And that doesn't go away once you have that. I mean, it can with good legal counsel, but there's no limit on the time. It's going to stay there for a long time, right? Forever.
Right. Basically, your criminal record is permanent for the most part.
Okay. Yes, we've all heard about our permanent record, and this is actually the real one. So, all right. In one of the videos several of the videos, we've talked about drug possession, and we've zeroed in on a few of the videos on marijuana possession. And I know there's a distinction in the amount of marijuana, right, that constitutes misdemeanor versus felony. What is that amount?
Well, in order to be a felony amount of marijuana, we're talking about plant form, you need to possess greater than 3 ounces. And so anything under that 3-ounce mark is going to be punishable by less than a year in prison. Anything over 3 ounces, and you're looking at very serious consequences.
Okay, and I remember in that video we showed a baggie that had 1 ounce in it, and so it's 3 ounces is, I suppose. I mean, you can imagine sort of a small sandwich baggie half full is about 1 ounce. And so 3 of those is 3 ounces, and more than that is going to get you in big trouble. So, and the consequence would be that distinction that you mentioned there. So what about something like theft? I mean, there's lots of versions of theft. So when is it a misdemeanor versus a felony?
Well, the point where misdemeanor theft is a felony is when someone steals something that's worth $1,000 or more. So, say you're at the rec center and you've got your iPad and your iPhone in your backpack and somebody steals it, that value is greater than $1,000, and so that person's looking at a felony.
Wow. So that person could go to jail for over a year for that?
Potentially. Now, though, whether or not that would happen depends on other circumstances. But yes, the possible penalty is over a year. Yeah.
So if someone steals something that is obviously worth like many, many thousands of dollars, then that's clear. But the example that you gave there, where it's kind of on the line, like it would be a subjective, who gets to decide how much that thing is worth? Is that a matter that comes up in the hearing?
Yes, and when you're looking at valuing something that's used, that's something that we need to talk about a lot of times, is what was the value at the time it was taken. And, something the other side takes into consideration is, well, how much would it cost for me to replace it? So the lawyers kind of have to negotiate that. It doesn't mean that we can stop you from being charged with a felony. We just might be able to prevent you from being convicted of one.
Okay, so again, it sounds like good legal counsel can really help with this. So what about sexual assault? We've talked sometimes about those kind of crimes, and what distinguishes misdemeanor from felony there?
Well, an example would be say you've got a 19-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl, and they're, in a relationship, and they're engaged in what would be considered immodest or immoral acts, and that age difference right there can land the 19-year-old with a felony if, for some reason, the parents or the girl later decide that they want to prosecute over that. Now that would be, you're in felony type of trouble there, versus if it was an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old and that same immoral conduct, say they're making out or whatever the case may be, is not going to even be a crime. So.
Okay. So it's an age difference or a break over the 18 mark in the amount of years that constitutes this. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it has to do with the age of the girl and the age of the boy. And so if it's greater than 4 years and she's under 17, then that's where you're looking at potential felony problems. Okay. What about wrecking stuff, damage to property? How does that get categorized as a small versus a large crime? Again, it's the $1,000 mark. So if you've got property damage that's greater than $1,000, then they can charge you with a felony, and under $1,000 would be a misdemeanor. Those would both be destruction of property charges, but one would be less severe than the other. Okay,
and a destruction of property that, say it's around, it's again on the line, like someone's going to say, oh, that's $800 worth of damage. Someone else says, well, that's $1,500 worth of damage. Are you looking at a year in prison possibly for that, or is it more like a monetary punishment?
Well, a lot of times, and this is just in my experience, as long as the property gets replaced or repaired and the person hasn't been in a lot of trouble before, it's just a matter of working out a plea deal to make sure that the property's back the way it was before all this happened. And then, unfortunately, there's the potential for jail time, but usually it's just probation.
Okay. Now tell us a bit here as we sort of wrap these all together. What can you do to help people in these situations, or is this something that they could handle any of these on their own and get the best deal?
Well, as far as really being able to explain the circumstances of the client's case and negotiate a plea deal, you really want a good attorney that's going to be able to put those facts and circumstances forward that will help mitigate the wrongdoing. That would be the most preferential way to handle something like this. But yes, we can routinely help our clients not become felons through these negotiations or by taking cases to trial. And a lot of times, you can't do that without a good lawyer.
Right, because there's a lot of nuance, subtlety, and complexity to all this. Maybe it doesn't look like there is at first, but it sounds like talking to you here there is. So they might want to get in touch with you for some of that help. And how do they do that?
Sure. They can click the link in the description and call, text, or chat with a member of my team anytime, day or night. We know you only get one shot at justice, so make yours count.